Hello, everyone. The topic for the day would be business strategy and business model. Remember, what I've done in the next 25 odd minutes of this particular videos, the first half would be dedicated only onto the business strategy as we go around with. And the second half, let's say last 10 minutes onwards, we will be dedicating it to the business model around. So we need to understand what is strategy and how do we model the strategy around to make a previous slide. This was the point which we're talking around. Similarly, the corporate culture is all about beliefs, mission statement, vision, leadership, teamwork, logos, image, flexibility, and adaptability. Last but not the least would be the change management. We'll talk about the corporate cultures accordingly. So, the belief and the values shared by the people who work in an organization, how people behave with each other, how people behave with their customers, the respective clients that you go around it. Mind you, we are in the business of getting more revenues from the pocket of the customer. So we need to behave in a particular fashion so that it gives a wow impact to them. They are happy with our behavior. How people view the relationship with the stakeholders is one of the key pointers. People response to energy, use, community, involvement, absence, work, ethic, and so on. How the organization behave to its employees, training, be it professional development. So this is all about the corporate culture. We talk about it. Remember, we can talk about the corporate culture in terms of vision and mission statement. Then comes the aims and objective, which probably will be there in the subsequent slide. So what is the vision of an organization? Now, when I talk about vision, we are talking in terms of 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years of a length duration. Probably a particular generations of an employee would see up and remain persistent and true in the subsequent generations also. The vision is a very broad statement that we go around it. Mission statement, on the other hand, is the summarized beliefs of the organization as it where it is right now. So mission would be the small milestone which can be attained in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years time. So maybe reflected in attitude and behavior of a leadership, attitude to the role of an individual, the workplace, open plan offices, team-based working. What kind of culture that we want to develop? Do we have a closed culture? Do we have an open culture? Do we want to keep ourselves a transparent thing? Do we have to behave that all the litigations, all the liabilities, all the rules, all the regulation that is mandated by the government has to be followed and so on and so forth? The logo of the organization plays a vital importance because it means that this has been defined, that particular design, the logo defines the organization, the image it presents to the outside world. What does it mean for the outside world? The moment you understand, see a logo, a sound, or a picture, whatever it is, the attitude to change is what we talk about it. So now, if you would have listened to my series of thoughts in my previous slides, you would have understood what is exactly corporate culture. Let me clarify it with certain examples out here. So, what corporate culture do you think the following business have? See, this is about Virgin Airlines. What kind of corporate culture does this corporate depicts altogether? You know it well, and believe me, it is of all of a glamorous lifestyle that we are talking about it. Now comes when a lotion, a beauty product. Now, what kind of cultures are you looking at? You might be looking at a very premium customers who are almost middle age and probably they want to hold on to their youth. So what is about McDonald's? Completely a different focus altogether. The younger generations, the upcoming generation, and probably they might not be onto their jobs or earning as such, but they are the hip crowd having for a fast food kind of scenario. Let us come to another. Perhaps the Nike shoes, if you want to go around by the logo, this has been present out here. Now, what does the Nike reveal says is it says just do it. You taste actually in the face to the right, the rock star in you, and they are targeting that thing. So, corporate cultures, as depicted by the photographs that I've shown it to you, are different and are separate. Now we'll talk about the strategic planning. We have already said about the vision, the goals, the objectives, and the aims. Did I say the aims and objectives? I'll carry it with the analysis, the development, and the evaluation process that we go around it. That is what a strategic plan is all about. First stage of strategic planning may involve future thinking. Remember, future thinking, we are talking about something in excess of 10 to 20 years ahead. Strategic intent. thinking about key strategic themes that will inform the decision making. The thicker the planning document, the more useless it will be. So you need to be very slim, very precise. Talking time to think and reflect may be more important than business allowed time for. This is something which we need to understand time and again. So, strategic planning, the vision, what are the vision, communicating to all the staff where the organization is going, where it intends to be in the future, allows the firms to set goals, aims, and objectives, a long-term targets, absolutely long-term objectives, the way you want to see to achieve those aims, small milestone that we keep on saying around it. Example, let us give an example. For a chocolate manufacturer, how do you break into an overseas market? So first and the foremost objective would be to develop relationship with the suppliers, build your supply chain altogether, identify the retail network, the supply chain that I was talking around it. Look after your vendors. Who are the biggest courier and forwarding agent? Who are the biggest retailer? Who are the biggest wholesaler into the retail market altogether? Conduct a market research to identify the customer needs. Consumer, what kind of taste that they prefer? Do they look for a dark chocolate? Do they look for a sweetened chocolate, or do they look for an additive in the chocolate, as in fruit and nuts, or probably certain amount of fruits that you want to go around? Find location for an overseas team to set up our headquarters. This is important part of your strategic planning. Once the direction is identified, analyze the position, develop and introduce strategies, evaluate. Now evaluation is keep on constant factor. You need to improvise on a day-to-day affairs. You need to improvise as on whenever you have achieved your objective. So improvise on your objective will only fine tune your process altogether and will be very objective in your overall handling of the business procedures. So that means more revenue. More revenue means more profit. We need to add to the bottom line. So evaluation is constant, and the result of evaluation of the feedback to the vision. Now we'll talk about the analysis part. Remember, we are talking about business strategy. What we are talking? We are talking about core competencies, what we are good at it. What is that which is unique to us as an organization? What is our core businesses? For these core businesses, what are the raw material or the required input that we keep on talking? We will be talking about the strength, weakness, and opportunity threat, or the SWOT analysis as we go around it. We will talk about the pest analysis or the external environment analysis that we are looking into it. And last but not the least is the five forces method of Michael E. Porter. Very vital for you to succeed. We come to strength, weakness, opportunities, and strength. Now, talking about our organization, identify the organizational strength, which is a must. This is the must thing around it. If you can identify on the strength, work upon the strength and make it a solidifying position. Definitely, if you have some strength, there are requirements that you might not be good in certain areas, which is your weaknesses. Can you eliminate the weaknesses? Try to overcome all your weaknesses with probably your supply chain partnership, probably with your vendor partnership, probably take a technical know-how altogether to remove your weaknesses. Now comes the external opportunities. What market opportunities might be there for the organization to exploit? Can you maximize your strength and minimize your weakness to capitalize on opportunities, as we say around it? So this is possible only when there the threats that is there probably in the environment lurking around here and there can be coming from, can you defend it? So there might be threat from your competitors, there might be threat in the environment, or the customer taste might have changed automatically. There might be threat in terms of legal laws which might be prohibiting to do your business against you. This is what PEST is all about it. Political, P for political, E for economic, S for social, and T for technological thing. Now, this remember are all external to you. Political might be local, national, international political development. How will they affect the organization? Something that is beyond your control as a business fellow. Something that is beyond the control of an entrepreneur. Now we'll talk about economics, which are basic issues for both national and international thing. We might go to a depression. We might have an inflation, a hyperinflation. How do we cope it up? So then comes the social impact. What are the social impact? Developing social trends. You see at certain economies or certain countries, probably there might be gender biasness, probably there might be caste biasness, probably there might be skin color biasness. So how what how do you depict? What does it depict to you? How to overcome it? Overcome it is the question. Comes the technological analysis. What now? Changing technology means we are getting removal the hands or interference of the human intervention. Why this so? Because that means we're going to have Six Sigma policy, probably zero defects, which we're going to go around it. Technology, everything can be done with the help of data around it. We can improvise on the technologies time and again and remove any sort of human error if applicable. Example of pest is, let us look at the South Asian countries. Most of the world nowadays views South Asian countries as manufacturing centers. They are manufacturing everything from your clothes that you wear to the laptop or the mobile that you utilize it. Concerns of the treatment of the workers and the environment in less developed countries, probably there might be cases of child labor. There might be cases where people are being exploited, being paid little, absolutely little in lieu of the work. The future direction of the interest rates, the consumer spending, that is what the Fed government always goes up. The federal government or the would revise the rates, the bank rates, the repo rates, the interest rate, and so on and so forth. The changing age structure of the population is a demographic change that we are looking into it. Many a country, the age population is aging rapidly, and then there are countries from Africa and probably in Southeast Asia where the population is still young, still vibrant. Now, how do you go this demographic change? So the popularity of fads like an Atkins diets or keto diets, there are preferences of people turning into vegan or vegetarian foods only. There are people who would love to go for fishitarian foods. All aquatic animals, they are good enough, but not about the land animals. Now there are changing fads that comes around it. The move towards the greater political regulation of a business is something which we carry. The effect of more bureaucracy in a labor market is true, as true possible. Now, this is Michael E. Porter's five forces. Remember, the five forces are very important. First thing is the strength of barriers to entry. Second would be the extent of rivalry between firms. Then the power of the supplier. Then the power of the buyer. Then the threat of the substitute. Let me dissect one by one. Strength of the barriers of entry. If in a business, for example, you want to launch an airline business or you would now launch a cruise line business, remember, airline will be costing some, one particular airline would be costing, aircraft would be costing you few million rupees. That means a stiff barrier cost to enter into the cruise liner will cost you a few billion rupees, a few $1 billion, and things like that. So you need to understand this. Please understand the barrier. Then there is something called rivalry, where there is a huge oligopoly market, where there is huge fight for market share. Everybody is competing for pittance of the allocation. Probably everybody might be cutting costs, everybody might be giving freeways, and so on and so forth. So how competitive is the existing market? Then we have the supplier power. The greater the power, the less control the organization has over it. If you, for example, the diamond industry, only the diamond mine are going to give it to the companies or the industry altogether. So the mine have the supplier power altogether. So they will be at fixed as to what rate they do supply. Then comes the buyer power, where you have less customer. Let's say many a times there are many industry. Let's say the railways as an industry, a railway industry. There are many companies would be manufacturing coaches and engines, but only one particular or two particular of a couple of handful of railway, handful of companies who run the railway altogether. So the buyer power is very strong in such kind of industry. Threat of a substitute is when we come with an alternative products and services for the, for remember the mobile phone that we were using earlier times, it was a touchpad mobile phone, and now it is a touchscreen mobile phone altogether. The pad has been removed. That means it has been substituted. There are mobiles which were actually analog, have been removed altogether, have been become into a digital. Nowadays the mobile are known as smartphone. I hope I was able to understand or make you understand everything about the Michael E. Porter's five model. So required input. Changing strategy will impact on the resources. specifically on the impact of land, labor, and capital. Remember, this is the maximum thing that we come to continue. Land is very limited. Opportunities to acquire land for development, the green belt, the brownfield studies, the planning regulation, and so on and so forth. Similarly, would be labor manpower might be available, but adequate skilled manpower may not be there. So this needs to be understood. Then there is a type of capital, that the cost of the capital needed to fulfill these strategies is there. We will come to the next part, would be the evaluation pattern. Now see, look at evaluation. What we are going to do about it, we'll talk about the share prices, we'll talk about the sales, we'll talk about the profit, the productivity, the volumes, the earnings, the benchmarks, the environmental and social audits, and return on capital employed, ROCE. This is what we got to evaluate. We need to understand the metrics will tell us how good, bad, ugly we are altogether. The data from sales, data from the profit used to evaluate the progress of the success of the strategy and to inform the changes to the strategy in light of the data. This is very much required. Absolutely, the data that goes around here, see the data out here. Absolutely, the data tells you a lot of things. Count the types of strategies. What are they? They are competitive advantage, they are cost advantage, they are market dominance. We are creating new products. Remember the analog mobile that we were talking around it, and the digital mobile, or probably the smartphone that is in your hand right now, or accessing this particular video from which we have the contraction or the diversification, we have the price leadership, we have the global arena altogether, the re-engineering effect, the downsizing, the delayering, or probably compressing of the hierarchy from a tall structure organization to a flat structure organization, and last but not the least would be the restructuring that we keep on carrying it out. So these are the types of strategies that has been existent. We can adopt a few of them, or a mix of them, or any one of them for that suit our requirement as an organization, as a business entity. So competitive advantage, something which gives the organization some advantages over its rival. Cost advantage, a strategy to seek out, secure a cost advantage of some kind, which is basically you are cost leaders, you are labor cost reducer or something that we going around it. Then comes market dominance, which can be done only via two ways. What are they? That is internal growth, that is external growth, or acquisition. So one is organic and the other one is inorganic. Organic is where you accrue it from internally, you grow on your own. And inorganic, where you acquire certain other companies, merge them, take over them, new product development to keep ahead of the rivals and set the pace. Then comes contraction and expansion. Focus on what are you good at, what is your core competency, and seek to expand of the market. So, talking about strategies, so we have the strategies called price leadership. What means? That means I am giving a product, a quality product at a very affordable price, a price which probably nobody else can mimic, or which might be actually be very below the belt for somebody else to mimic also. So other follows your price lead. Actually, if they start following up, if that cost is not mattering up, they will not be profitable in the long run, and they will extinguish themselves. Then comes the global, seeking global operation. Yes, right now, today, this particular video, you are seeing it, watching it, and from a different location altogether, even in your country, probably not accessing it on a mobile, probably on a laptop, probably on a desktop. It can be anywhere. See where the places are it is coming up. Now the industry might be located in one place, but it can service around the globe. Re-engineering, thinking outside the box, looking at the new ways of doing things to leverage the organization performance, to understand how the organization can benefit from one position vis-a-vis the other position, as the case might be. So then comes the internal business strategies of downsizing, delayering, and restructuring. What is downsizing? Basically, when you curtail your business, when you curtail or unhive all the not so core business altogether. So selling of the unwanted part of the business, similar to contraction. Delayering, on the other hand, is from the top down top, a tall organization structure into a flat organization structure. So basically, you're making it team bound. So it's management structure, removing bureaucracy and speed up decision making, restructuring. Complete rethink of the way the business is organized is basically thinking out of the box, at the same time keeping the output absolutely same. There are no changes in the output experience to the customer, that is all about it, but internally you are optimizing your resources. So next comes, now this was all about business strategy. I will now try to elaborate on the business model for the next 8 to 9 minutes altogether. Now, what is business? We'll talk about the essentially five types of model comes around it. What are they? We can do business from business to business. What are they? We can do business with the direct customers altogether. We can do business from customer to customers, from business with the government itself, and probably from customers to business altogether. So business model is a way the company sells its products and services to its end clients. It describes the business, how it creates it, how it delivers it, and how it captures the values in it. And that is all about business model. So B2B, B2C, C2C, B2G, and C2B. Consumer to business, business to government, consumer to consumer, business to consumer, business to business. We go around it. So, for example, we'll talk about the two phases. The first phase is comprising the following trade, wherein business organization rush to establish an e-commerce website. Most of the new age businesses is all built upon an online platform. Let's say on the metaverse, they want to build it upon. Little or no regard has been given how reliable the site needs to be going around it. Now, this is very wrong. Wherein, if you have to have the financial transaction, all your cards, credit cards, your mode of payment needs to be secure. It's matter of beating the competition. Drawback: there are no a little integration with the production side of the business is one of the realities of the thing, because what can be depicted on the screen might be completely different in reality once you reason it out. So reason is growth of consumer base, request for real time order status, and return of the product of vital importance. In the second phase, the organization starts about planning, about integrating the backend and the real-time transaction. Probably this is the time when it starts to manipulating and marrying all the end process, all the events at one point at real-time basis. Businesses are using internet technologies, integrating their system and processes more efficiently, and are now breaking the barrier. This has been possible. Why? Because only of capitalizing on continuous business proposal for applying correct technology. And remember, technology is evolving day after day. It is becoming more customer centric. It is becoming more, the user interface is becoming more friendlier and friendlier. So we'll talk about the business model, all the five models that we have spoken around it. Now we have the B2B model. What is it? B2B model is a supplier oriented, buyer oriented, intermediate oriented. For example, what is a supplier oriented? You might, how many of you might have built into a construction industry? Do you purchase cement? Probably no. Why? The end customer doesn't end up producing cement or purchasing cement. That doesn't mean that there is no cement company producing cement altogether. There are, but the cement company, the bulk of the customer, the real estate owners or the property developer who goes around it. So we have the supplier oriented, we have the buyer oriented, and definitely the intermediate in terms of who is talking about making building up a bridge or a dam. A lot of cement has been carried forward. So essentially, a cement company would be primarily a business to business model. Very few people, a few retail customer it would be having it. So we have the other example that I've already mentioned is about the automobile manufacturer that makes several B2B transactions. Let's say buying tires or glasses for windscreen or the rubber hoses for the vehicle. Now this is not the core component of the automobile manufacturer. They hive it off or they get it from their vendors altogether. That is what business to business model is all about. It now comes B2C model, the business to consumer model. Most of the business are business to consumer. Generally, if you think about doing a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, the first model that comes to you is business to consumer model. Business or transaction conducted directly between a company and the consumer, who are the end user of its products and services. This model enables consumer to browse, probably give a lot of laxity to them to choose and select whatever they feel like as per their requirement and prices, probably at a much competitive rate. Then comes the consumer to consumer model, the C2C, consumer or citizen, where the electronic commerce actually happens, which facilitate transaction between consumer through one party to a third party. So basically what happens out here is When the particular customer actually purchase a product from one somebody's social media site, but the vendor is somebody else differently altogether. So customer is selling to another customer, getting the product from the vendor altogether, wherein he or she might be keeping a margin together. For example, an online auction that we talk around it, see, which has been given around here. Say any online auctions, any C2C marketing which is there onto the online platform, on social media platform, we see it, we actually experience. Then comes to business to government model. An example of business to government company is a firm that offers, let's say, an IT solutions or all information technology consulting services to a government agency. Something like this, which we go around it. Let's say the government wants to build up a road. The road contractor would be coming up and building the road. The contractor is a third party, and probably his only client or her only client would be the government, and gets the orders from the government, builds the road, takes the payment, and goes around it. So uses a complete B2G arrangement in order to keep the technology available. Then comes consumer to business. Consumer to business is a business model in which consumer, that is you as an individual, you as an end client, creates value for the business to consume that value. For example, when a consumer writes a review of a and gives a useful idea for a new product development, or let's say you go to a restaurant and give an idea altogether wherein your products, the end product, might become much more appealing to the general public at all. So that is what the consumer to business is all about. It, we have this ability to fine tune to our requirement, to our taste, creating value for the business. And if the business adopts the input or the viewpoint altogether, many a times nowadays almost all of the business have a social media presence where they actually interact, they actually take look after the grievances, they actually amplify the happy customers on their web pages, and help them to understand what the consumer or the end customer is looking for. And definitely improvises on the business altogether. Then comes the business model, the sixth component. Here it comes. What are they? Is the value proposition, is the market segment. Now, value proposition, what value do you bring in? Why do you go for a burger or a pizza or a thing? What does it comes along with it? How is it served very quickly? Is it served piping hot? Is the food is organically sourced? What is it of looking at? So value proposition, market segment. We have a target market. Remember the Virgin Airlines pic I showed to you, the fragrance that I showed to you, a lotion which I showed to you, the Nike shoe that I showed to you, the McDonald's restaurant that I showed, the pics that I showed. Every of those business have a different market segment. Then comes the value chain structure is very important, which actually matters a lot in nowadays creation of revenues and profit. The mere idea of erecting or establishing a business to create profit, place a value network, and competitive strategy, what your competitors are doing, can you be a step ahead of them? If you are a step ahead of them, nothing can bother you. So role of a business model is technical input and economic input. In between is you. That is what the business model is all about here. Your inputs and the output, and in between the process that you go around is the business model. Clarity. So revenue model versus a business model. Remember, a revenue model is a part of a business model. A business model shows a framework for an entire business, allows the investors and the bankers as well for the entrepreneur themselves to have a quick way of evaluating the business. On the other hand, the revenue model is a key component of business model. If there are no money flow, what do you make of it? Is the business actually viable? It is an essential factor for delivering products and services with high margin and funding of the. With this, I come to an end of this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this particular video.